When I heard DeSantis go out and say, and talk about 8 years, we need 8 years. You don't need 8 years, you need 6 months. We can turn this thing around so quickly. If you need 8 years, who the hell wants to wait 8 years? You don't need 8 years.
You know, if the former president says he can slay the deep state in 6 months, my question to him would be, well, you already had 4 years. Why didn't you slay it then?
The rivalry between the two frontrunners for the GOP nomination intensified this week. Let's bring in the roundtable for more. Welcome back, Donna Brazile and Reince Priebus, our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, and Washington Post chief correspondent, Dan Balz. Welcome to you all. Welcome to you again. Mary, I want to start with you. You're at the White House every day. You see the Biden campaign. You see the White House, obviously. What's their view of this Republican field?
I think the bigger the Republican field, the better the Biden team thinks it is for them. Look, the more Republicans are chasing each other all over Iowa, fighting it out amongst themselves while the president is back in Washington negotiating a debt deal to stave off an economic disaster, they think that makes Biden look presidential. I think they also feel that as long as this is Donald Trump's race to lose and he is still the front runner, that puts them in a good position because the Biden campaign and certainly the president feels that he beat Trump before, that he is the best and uniquely positioned to beat him again. The question is whether that holds, because, of course, 2024 is not 2020.
And Dan Balz, you know better than anyone how these things can change and how quickly they can change. It is still Trump's race to lose, however, despite the legal problems. Donna brought that up.
Yeah, I think that's right. It is his to lose. He's in such a dominant position. And, you know, if we were sitting here 6 months ago, we would not necessarily have said that. He looked, coming out of the midterms, like he was a damaged candidate. But Governor DeSantis has had some problems in the early stage, and the former president has been strengthened in part because of some of the legal action that's gone against him, because it's rallied people around him. And so his base is strong. He has the clearest the strongest base within the party, and everybody else, as you know, as Reince said earlier, everybody else is going to have to figure out a way to go after him and deny him the nomination that otherwise is likely to be his.
And Reince, back to DeSantis. You watched him in Iowa. You watched everybody. What was your takeaway from what you saw DeSantis do in Iowa and what he talked about?
Well, I think that he's got a great record. I think that he's trying to make a good case for an 8-year term. So he's trying to position himself as, hey, look, I'll give you everything Donald Trump gives you, minus a few tweets or the Truth Social. But I'm also going to give you 8 years. The problem is that DeSantis is hitting Trump for not getting enough done in the first 4 years. But DeSantis is saying, but I need 8 years to get it done. I mean, it doesn't really jive well. But I think that his problem is going to be momentum after Iowa, because you look at New Hampshire, you look at South Carolina, and you look at where that MAGA base is at. I mean, Donald Trump is, you know, like I said, I mean, he's a force of nature in the Republican Party right now. And what they're all waiting for are things that you cannot, we can't predict. And we don't know what the future holds.
And Donna, I want you to talk about, you brought up your TV husband, Chris Christie, former ABC News contributor, former governor of New Jersey. He's one who's directly taking on Donald Trump, way more so than anyone else. Will that resonate?
Absolutely. Let me say a good word about Chris Christie, and I hope he doesn't disavow his former TV wife now that I'm a political widow. Here's the point. Chris knows how to beat him. Chris knows Donald Trump. He knows how to get into his skin. I think that is going to be a very,
he didn't beat him last time.
Well, look, winning is not always about just declaring victory. It's also about how to take on a challenger like Donald Trump. It's a delicate dance to not only court the supporters, without alienating them, but to also give the other Republican candidates an opening. I think Chris Christie is well positioned if he can raise the money, because the rules to get on the Republican stage this time, I guess there won't be a kitty debate, is to have 400,000
40,000.
40,000. Let me get it right.
40,000.
You need a lot of small donations. put it that
I
way.
wrote it down because I'm not a Republican. You need 200 unique
40,000
donors
individual
and 20
campaign
states. And look, so Chris will have to do that. He will be a strong challenger. He will help the rest of the field. But I have to make fun of, Mr. DeSantis. I hope to see him one day so I can loosen him up. I think I can loosen him up a little bit. He said he's going to be the best conservative running. He said he's more conservative than Donald Trump. That's the argument he's going to make. I don't know if that's going to gain traction because his agenda in Florida was not a conservative agenda. It was an anti-freedom agenda.
And Dan, let's go to you. Then there's Mike Pence, of course, and you've got the North Dakota governor, Doug Burgum, another long shot. How did you, especially Mike Pence, getting in, and how he did in Iowa?
Yeah, I think the former vice president's in a very awkward position. I mean, he's running against the person who brought him onto the national ticket, running against the person he served loyally for most of 4 years until January 6th. What is his case against Donald Trump? At some point, it seems to me, he's going to have to make an explicit case.
Beyond January 6th.
Right. Which he, of course, did not mention at all yesterday, and we'll see if he does when he announces this week. He's going to have to make an explicit case as to why Donald Trump is unfit to be president again, because he's going to take credit, as he did in Iowa yesterday, for a lot of the policies that they had in those 4 years. So I think he's in a tough position. But clearly he sees an opening in Iowa because in Iowa, evangelical Christians have a very strong voice in those caucuses. And I think that he will push to try to find that space in order to break out in Iowa. But it's a tough path for him.
And Mary, you covered the Biden campaign in 2020. You're obviously going to be out there again covering campaigns. Joe Biden navigated a similarly large field. Republicans have any lessons to learn from that?
It's a good question. I mean, I think back to 2020, I always think about how for a long time there, Biden's campaign was basically written off for dead. He really fizzled in those early challenges. A couple things do stand out, right? He always had a very consistent message. He still does. I mean, he's running basically on that same message now. I do think he also benefited from some of that pile-on effect on the early frontrunners. I think back to that South Carolina debate where everyone sort of hammered Bernie Sanders. I'm not sure that applies here, though, when you're dealing with Teflon Donald Trump, who seems to simply welcome a larger field. He thinks that will help him. So I'm not sure how many of those lessons necessarily apply because, of course, Trump seems to always break the mold.
But everyone's watching, right? You talked about those new debate rules, Donna, the 40,000 individual campaign donors, 1% in multiple national poll. But this one, which is new, a pledge of support for the eventual nominee. Why that? Why now?
Well, it's really not new. We did it in 2016, if you remember the famous
Raising
trip
the
to
hands
Trump Tower to get the president to sign the pledge. Here's the problem. National Party, this is the nomination for the Republican Party. Republican Party has data agreements with all these candidates. Republican Party says, I'm going to give you all of our data, our most valuable resource, and you're going to use it, and you're going to exchange data back to the RNC. I am not going to give that data to a candidate that's going to tell me they're not going to support the nominee. So if you want to get the data, if you want to run for our party nomination, these are the rules. There's lots of parties. Go run in the Independent Party. Go run in the Farm Labor Party. Do what you want. But if you want to be the nominee of our party, you follow our rules.
And will Donald Trump appear on the debate stage, do you think?
I think he definitely will appear on the debate stage.
You think he definitely will. Donna, Democrats had similar debate requirements. Are these fair? Is this the way to go? Asa Hutchinson complaining about them.
I think it's more than fair. If you're unable to strike fire in those early states and to accrue the kind of support by getting $5 and $10 donations from everyday ordinary Americans, then you're not really fit to run the gambit. And we all know the Republicans have different rules when it comes to, accumulating delegates. And after you get out of those early states, it's winner take all in a lot of those key Super Tuesday states on March 5th. So if you can't strike fire early, you're going to burn out quickly.
And Mary, I want to turn to the debt ceiling, which you've been covering for, it seems like months. Forever. President Biden in his Oval Office address stressed bipartisanship. And that's clearly a message going forward. Is that enough?
Yeah, look, we clearly heard, a big preview of the template to come with his campaign message. The White House feels very strongly that this fight was a good example of Biden's approach to governing, right? That he can show voters that he can make good on that promise to reach across the aisle and actually get something done while also preserving his priorities, right? They don't feel like he gave up too much on his economic agenda here. I will say, though, I think we have to be a little real about this. Negotiating a bipartisan deal when the global economy is on the brink of disaster is a little bit different than arguing, as we have seen the president and the speaker do, that you've seen a change in Washington. Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath for a lot more of these kind of bipartisan kumbaya moments going forward.
And Dan, of course, whatever message the White House wants to give out, and having the president in the Oval Office this week, we saw an image that stayed with a lot of people, and that is the president falling down after that Air Force commencement speech. How does that play? We talk about this every week, that voters are legitimately concerned about President Biden's age.
Two things, Martha. One is we know that most Americans have no enthusiasm for a rematch between the former president and the current president. That's point one. But it doesn't mean that if that is the rematch, that people will not, in a sense, take traditional sides, that they will move to the red camp and the blue camp. Age is certainly a factor for both men, but more so for the president because he's older and because he has shown some signs of that aging. But I think in the end, people will not necessarily make their decision on that. They're going to make their decision on what each candidate who's the nominee is offering the country and the arguments between the two about the dangers of the other becoming president. And I think ultimately we get down to that in the final stage. But as the president has said, age is an important issue, and voters should be thinking about that.
Quick thought from you there, Reince, just to wrap it up.
Oh, well, look, I think as to the debt ceiling, the most predictable thing, it's predictable as the Detroit Lions not making the Super Bowl. I think Kevin McCarthy did a great job, both sides, to say that they can win. But to Dan's point, you have to imagine that both parties are in a huge room, and they're talking to each other about who they want to emerge from that room. It's not the media. It's not people in the middle. It's not people reading necessarily all the things that you're all reading. And most likely you're going to get the people that, at this point, that Dan's referring to, the president and the former president.
Okay, and we'll have to wrap it up there. Thanks to all of you.